Hey, I'm Liv, welcome back to my channel Endless Pages, and welcome to today's video, which is my July reading wrap up. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I'm going to be chatting with you guys about all of the books that I read in the month of July and what I thought of them. Book number one for the month was She Is a Haunting by Trang Tan Tran. This is a YA horror book. The cover is incredible. The book was not incredible, unfortunately. I highly disliked this book. I've got my notes. Let's chat about it. So this is about a young girl who takes a trip to Vietnam to spend time with her father. She's kind of made a deal with him that she'll spend some holidays with him in Vietnam, helping him do up this old colonial type house, and he'll give her money to go to college. Yeah, college, that's the American one. Yeah. Her name was Jade Nguyen. She has to go fix up the house in Vietnam, and the house has other plans. It's basically haunted. I found this book really unengaging and slow. I just think that for a book that's classified as horror, there wasn't much that was scary about this book. It's kind of meant to be like a bug body horror type book, but out of this whole, how many pages was this? Like almost 400-page book, there was only one scene that really grossed me out, and I think most of the scenes were meant to gross me out, but yeah, it only really happened once in this whole book. So not at all scary, quite boring actually, very repetitious, and the main character was so YA, her decisions were so YA. I'm getting too old for this shit, I think. And she was very annoying, pick-me kind of main character, to be honest, and I just don't think the writing was very good either. I think this is the author's debut, I'm pretty sure. And, oh yeah, there you go, a riveting debut. And I think the author was trying really hard to make her writing sound amazing, but it ended up being that there was way too many metaphors, and a lot of them seemed to lose what they were trying to say and just kind of fizzle out and not really finish the metaphor. And a lot of them just didn't make sense, and then I ended up being confused and lost because the metaphor fizzled out, or I couldn't actually figure out what it was trying to say. It's just one of those books that's fallen victim to a metaphor in, you know, every second line of the book. I will say I appreciate what this book was trying to do. This woman, our main character Jade, a girl I should say, she is kind of being haunted by a woman that lived in this house, and I think the purpose of this book is using this bug body horror as a metaphor for colonialism, and I appreciated why this house was haunted. I think that was a cool, clever idea to show the trauma and history of this place and the trauma that the Vietnamese people went through that lived in this house, that were servants in this house to the colonial owners. So I think it was a very clever concept to bring to light the trauma of the people and the ill effects of colonialism on countries like Vietnam. But I think the writing is where it really let itself down and wasn't able to fully explore that concept well enough. So yeah, this was very disappointing. I was very bored. I think the writing wasn't good. And it's such a shame because, again, using the horror as a metaphor for colonialism was a very clever idea. It's just such a shame that the execution was so poor. It was boring, it was unengaging, it was not at all scary for a horror book as well. So I ended up giving this 2 stars. I ummed about what to rate this, but I can't believe I finished this book. I really can't. It should have been a DNF for sure, because the writing was just so bad and it was so fucking boring. So boring. So what a shame, because I really wanted to love this book. And I think it's a cool, unique subject, and I think more books should be like this in terms of the content and what it's exploring with colonialism, but poor execution, unfortunately. So yeah, that's what I thought of She Is a Haunting. Next up, I read The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I had such mixed thoughts on this book. I don't know what to say about this book. I'm definitely going to have to look down at my notes a lot. But basically, this is a prequel to this book, which is behind me. They both die at the end. Basically, there's this world where there's a service called Deathcast, and it calls you on the day you're going to die. You could die at any point in those 24 hours, but you are going to die when you get called by Deathcast. So the prequel, the first to die at the end, is about the first night that Deathcast is in operation. We follow two characters in this book. Let me remind myself of their names. We followed two boys. So we have Orion, who has a, oh shit, I can't remember, a heart condition, and he's been dying most of his life. And he signs up for Deathcast. And then we also follow Valentino, who has recently, the book set in New York, he has recently moved to New York, and these two come across each other on the launch night, I guess you'd say, of the Deathcast. And as they cross paths, their bond is undeniable. But after the very first Deathcast calls go out, the boys' life are changed forever. One of them receives a call and the other one doesn't. So I really wanted to love this book because I absolutely adored they both die at the end, and like, a fantastic book. This one, on the other hand, I felt it was cringy. I unfortunately think the writing was cringy a lot of the time. I liked the two main characters, and I liked their romance in some parts, but I think what annoyed me about this book was how unrealistic. I don't know how to say this without spoiling. There's, other than the fact that they meet on Deathcast and one of them's there when the other one gets the call, as a sign, something that kind of bonds them. And they're, you know, initially there's a very obvious attraction to one another the first time they meet. So that kind of bonds them. But there's another thing that bonds these two characters that's a huge spoiler, so I won't say. And this is what I found the most unbelievable. And I know it's a book, it's fiction. But I can only suspend my disbelief so far, and I know I've said that in book reviews before, but that's where it started to get a bit silly for me. I appreciate what I was trying to do, and it was an emotional thing, but I found it very silly. I know I'm saying this without saying what the thing is, I'm sorry, there's no context, but yeah, it's obviously something that was not possible in real life and is never actually going to happen. So it seemed so, I guess, exaggerated and something like out of a soap opera TV show, if you know what I mean, like something that would happen in like Grey's Anatomy or show like that. So I was like, oh, this is very weird and unrealistic and would never happen. Like, so unrealistic. So and a lot of the writing was cringy. There was so many cringy moments that I physically was like, that's so gross. In terms of, yeah, the writing was cringy in some parts and had a very YA kind of feeling to it. What also annoyed me in this book is, like I said, it's a prequel to this book, and we do the thing that happens a lot in TV and books where we go, hey, look, I'm mentioning a character in this from this. You should know their name. You know them, right? They're here. And I just find that really pulls me out of the story a lot of the time. If you're bringing up, like, you know, Rufus, who's a character from They Both Die at the end, hey look, it's Rufus, and that just really pulls me out of the story, because now I'm just thinking about the other book, and now I'm like thinking about that the authors tried to make it really obvious that, hey, here's a reference to the other book, and it was filled with constant references, and that just pulls me out of the story a lot. I did sob at the end of this book. Like, obviously, the first to die at the end, you know one character is going to die. That's not at all a surprise. You know it's coming. And I did sob when that did happen, because obviously it was an emotional scene. So initially I did rate this like 4 stars because of that ending, but then I had to reflect back on my overall thoughts of the books, where most of the time I found it cringy, and I was like, I don't think I should give it a rating based off those last pages. That of course it was going to be emotional because one of the characters died. I think I should rate my overall experience with this book, which wasn't amazing. So yeah, I really struggled to rate this. I really think I'm struggling to express to you guys my thoughts on this book, because I don't think I quite understand my thoughts on the book myself. So yeah, this was a letdown. I am very curious to see, because it was a while ago I read this one, I'm very curious to see if this holds up, or if my reading taste has changed, that I'll go back and I'll find this one cringy too. I don't think I will, because there's not that Grey's Anatomy kind of aspect in this book. This book was just more about the two male characters bettering each other, and that was happening in this book. They were helping each other through each other's trauma, but it just didn't hit the same. It didn't have the same punch as this book. So yeah, I think I'm gonna reread this eventually and see if it holds up, or maybe it won't hold up now. Maybe I'll hate this one too, which I don't want to. But yeah, overall I'm gonna rate this cringy at times. So it's currently sitting at a 3.5. I still don't know if I'm happy with that rating either. I don't know, do you guys think I should rate it lower? Do you think I think it's a lower rating? Maybe drop it down to a 3. It's not a 2. Maybe I'll drop it down to a 3. Currently sitting at a 3.5. Let me know if you think that's a correct rating based on how I've talked about it. And this was a all over the place review, because my thoughts about this book are all over the place. So yeah, now let's talk about a book I actually enjoyed. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Forquet. Holy shit, I am so surprised I like this book. If you go and watch my, maybe my July TBR video, I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to read this. It sounds whimsical. I'm gonna hate it. I'm gonna eat my words, because that was carry on for nothing. This is one of my favorite reads of the month, if you can quite believe it, because I can't believe it. This is about Emily Wilde, who is she's not a researcher, she's, I don't know what her title is. She's an expert on fairies, and she goes off to this like Icelandic type kind of island to research these fairies called the Hidden Ones. She's writing a huge encyclopedia of all the types of fairies that she has come across in her research. And who turns up on that island other than her kind of academic rival, Wendell, who is lazy and sarcastic and a pain in her ass. And it's basically about her uncovering the secrets of these hidden one fairies and putting up with Wendell. So this is kind of like a romance too. I was kicking my feet while I was reading this book. First of all, the romance is so cute. It's so fucking cute. This is such a cute romance book. I love the character of Wendell. He's such a smug smartass, but I love him so much. I kind of feel like it's the attitude of like, we can fix him. Yeah, Wendell is lazy and a smartass and used to getting his way in life by, you know, not actually putting much effort in, but the way he looks at and talks about and thinks about Emily is incredible. The way he fully understands who she is as a person when no one else seems to, and Emily's character is very bookish, very socially anxious, and very much someone that prefers her own company, and doesn't really see anything, you know, she doesn't see a problem with that. She just prefers her own company. And Wendell is like the only person in the world that seems to get that about her and not want to change that. He just knows her so well and understands her so well and loves her for that. It's so fucking cute. Yeah, it was really, and a lot of this book is like, you're reading Emily's diary as she's researching. You're not reading her encyclopedia, but you're reading her diary as she explores and tries to make connections with the fairies on this island. And so yeah, a lot of it is, not a lot of it, it's all her journal. And there is quite a lot of like academic talk, because that's just how Emily thinks, and she's a researcher and a professional. So like a lot of it is like very academic, but I didn't care. The writing was just so fun that it wasn't boring to me, and you have all these cute little footnotes, and I thought I would hate that and be like, oh, feels like I'm just reading a textbook, but the writing is just so good. I think it's really good writing, but I absolutely flew through this book. I really liked the writing style, even though most of the book is quite a slow plot, but I just didn't give a shit, to be honest. And I think it was really fun. I really loved the romance. Like I said, I loved Emily and Wendell's dynamic and their banter. I loved it so much. And I think it was a very intense, fun ending. And it was just a really fun way to show off that dark, evil side of fairies. These are not nice, happy fairies. These are like dark, trickster, evil kind of fairies, which is really fun too. And we had a really intense, fun ending. So I absolutely freaking loved this book. I cannot wait to continue on with this series. We had a very cliffhangery ending to this book, and I rated it 4.5 stars. I flew through it. The biggest surprise of the year, to be honest. I didn't think I was going to like a book like this, but kicking my feet, lovely romance. I love a good fairy story, and this was so good. I highly recommend. Next up, I read The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell. Lisa Jewell, her writing is just all over the place, either amazing or terrible. I don't know what it is. It's bizarre. So basically this book is about a teenage mum called Tallulah, and one night her mother says, yeah, go out, have a nice night out without the baby, and I'll look after the baby until you get back. It's then, is that a spoiler? No. And then 4:30 that next morning, Tallulah's mum realizes that she hasn't come home from drinks at the pub, and she is never seen or heard from for about a year. And then this woman called Sophie is walking behind the school where her husband is like the new head teacher, and she comes across a sign that says dig here. So yeah, this is basically a book about what happened to teenage mum Tallulah. This was boring. This was a long ass thriller. I was concerned. I was like, why is this thriller so long? And I see now why it was so long. This was, how many pages? This was almost 500 page thriller. And I wouldn't call this book thrilling at all. The pacing was abysmal. It is so fucking slow. And I reckon nothing happened for like 200-ish pages of this book. It is so slow. I also find how this book was written very weird. I think that Sophie's whole perspective was unnecessary. I found her a very unlikable character to read from her perspective. You kind of have two perspectives. You have more than two, but initially you kind of have two perspectives, Tallulah's mum and Sophie in this book, mainly Sophie. And then eventually you get some other perspectives. I won't say whose, but you do. And yeah, I found Sophie very snobby and unlikable character. I understood her purpose. She was there to restart this dead investigation because there hadn't been any news in a year and it was just kind of dead in the water, kind of like a cold case. But she was just there to restart the investigation. However, I think this book could have done without her character. I found it a very unnecessary character. I think there's other ways that they could have reignited this investigation. Like, anyone could have come across this dig here sign, and it was just like, Sophie's an author, so because she's an author, she's literally like a she's a like fiction crime author, so that gives her the expertise to help solve this case, basically. So I found that a very convenient plot, and I think this book would have been better without her perspective, and probably would have been a lot shorter too. I just don't think Sophie had a lot of depth to her as a character, and I think we wasted so much time in this book about Sophie and her partner's relationship, which didn't really amount to anything, didn't add to the plot of this book, and just felt like a waste of pages. And I'm like, oh my god, no wonder this book's so long. We're wasting time on Sophie. I don't give a shit about Sophie. Where's Tallulah? Like, I want to know where Tallulah is. And I wasn't at all surprised by the twist. I obviously didn't perfectly predict the ending, but there's a huge hint that's dropped like 200 pages into this book, and I'm like, oh well, that's what it's all is. Like, obviously, like it was like I imagined when I read it, like big like arrows pointing to it and red circles around it, like it was very obvious, like hey, you should take note of this, and it was very obvious. So I didn't find the revealing to be that interesting, because I had obviously picked up on that very obvious hint that made me not enjoy the ending, because I was like, well, no shit, that's what happened, obviously. So the ending was not worth it at all. I honestly was partially emotionally moved by this book. I think, like I said, it would have been better if it was mainly Tallulah's mum's perspective, because at the end of the day, this book is kind of about a mother's desperation to find her daughter, to find out what happened to the one that she loves. And I was emotionally moved by that part of the plot, her desperation, and the fact that she's a mum, she's never going to give up, and she is going to fight for the chance to figure out what happened to her daughter. So I was emotionally moved by that, and I think her perspective early on was the only really necessary one, and Sophie's was not. Overall, I found this boring, slow. I was promised insane suspense and brilliant twists. I think this was not at all brilliant or clever. I think the twist was very obviously pointed out to us. I think it was boring. I think Sophie was painful. I think this is the nail in the coffin for me with Lisa Jewell. I think I should just give up on trying to find more books of hers that I enjoy, because at this point, I just don't think it's gonna happen. Almost forgot to say, I ended up giving The Night She Disappeared 3 stars. Next up, I read The Exiles by Jane Harper. This is the third and final book in the Aaron Falk trilogy, and I'm so sad that I've finally finished this trilogy. I've been putting off finishing it for so long, and I'm so sad that I've said goodbye to Aaron Falk as a character, because yeah, it's a fantastic series. I enjoyed this Exiles book. This book is the purpose of it is a farewell to the character of the cop Aaron Falk. If you don't know, the first book in the series is called The Dry. I think it's not Aaron Falk trilogy, it's the Dry trilogy. Or maybe it is Aaron Falk trilogy. Whatever, The Dry. And each book follows our cop Aaron Falk as he gets kind of dragged into a different investigation. This one is set in wine country in I don't think it actually South Australia. It's set in South Australia, I forgot. And this one is about a mother that goes missing at the town's like wine festival, and no one ever knows what happened to her. They assumed she kind of fell into this watery area and got washed out to sea, but no one actually knows, and this book is about what happened to her. This was a tiny bit disappointing, and I've never said that about a Jane Harper. I have given all of Jane Harper 5 stars. So I'm very sad that I couldn't give this one 5 stars. I still think the writing of this is absolutely beautiful. I think Jane Harper has some of the best writing I have ever read, and I will stand by that. The writing is incredible in this book. Aaron Falk is such a likable main character, and I like him. I think he's a great male main character. However, this one, like I said, is more a farewell to him, but it felt funny because even though it was a farewell to him, they still had that aspect of a missing woman, and they did seem to make it seem like there will be one final investigation before we say goodbye to the character. And I was disappointed that the investigation wasn't really a huge part of this book. It was more a focus on Aaron wrapping up a part of his life and starting a new chapter, and more focused on his romantic life rather than the investigation, which was slightly frustrating because we still had an investigation that people kept mentioning and bringing up. So I was like, why aren't we actually investigating? The investigating doesn't really happen until like the last like 50 pages of this book, to be honest. But that being said, I still did rate it 4 stars because I think, like I said, the writing is absolutely incredible. The way Jane Harper describes Australian landscape is just incredible. She's so talented at doing so that you really feel like you're in that location with him, no matter where he is. You just get the picture of the location is so well drawn for you. So I can't fault her writing. It's incredible. She is so talented. I'm just a little disappointed that this more focused on his farewell rather than a final investigation. However, saying that, when we finally do get to the reveal of what happened to Kim, that's right, Kim Gillespie, that's the missing woman. When we finally do find out what happens, I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, I did not see that coming at all. There was no hints this whole time of that's what really happened, and I absolutely adored the reveal. I think it was so clever. I was so shocked. I like reacted out loud. I was like, holy shit, when it finally all started to come together, and I was like flicking through the pages. So it was just a shame because it's such a good fucking reveal that I was like, oh, we could have had moments like this throughout the whole book. So yeah, I'm really surprised that I had those slight negative thoughts about this book. Like I said, I still gave it 4 stars because the writing is incredible and the reveal at the end was so good. But yeah, I would still overall always recommend this trilogy. The Dry, incredible book, like one of my best books I've ever read. And I think Jane Harper is a very, very talented author. But yeah, I wish there was more investigation. This next book I don't really have a lot of thoughts on, and that is The Midnight Timetable by Bora Chung and translated into English by Anton Her. I won this at a giveaway, and thank God I didn't spend money on this book. Let's just say that. This is like a bunch of interconnected ghost stories at this facility that holds cursed items. Let me see my notes so I can talk about this very quickly, but I think this was very boring. I really struggled to get through it, even though it is very short and yeah, very short stories, and the book overall is only like 180 pages. I had to force myself to pick this up, which should tell you all I need to say about this book. I think it wasn't at all scary, it wasn't at all engaging. I think it was an interesting concept having all these different cursed objects in this one institute and having the little short stories about why they're in the institute and why they're cursed and the origins behind the curses. But I think it was an interesting concept that fell completely flat. I think the writing was really poor and I don't think it was scary at all. So I ended up giving The Midnight Table 2 stars. I finished off the month of July with 2 fabulous rereads. The first was The Black Hawks by David Cragg. This is the first, I think, in the Righteous Faith duology, I'm pretty sure it's called. This is about Vedran Chell, who is a knight sworn to his step-uncle and is kind of miserable in the position. And then one day their kingdom gets invaded and Vedran Chell ends up helping the prince of their kingdom, and they kind of make a deal. The prince is like this little shit, and that's how they describe him, really, is like a little annoying shit. And they make a deal. The prince says, if you get me to safety, I'll get you out of your oath to your uncle and you're free to go. And Vedran Chell's like, deal. And then on the road they get captured by this group of mercenaries that want to sell the prince off for some cash. And they are called the Black Hawk Company, and yeah, drama ensues. But the definite, oh actually no, before I say that, I will say I'm so glad I reread this book, because there was so many moments in this book that I'm like, I have no memory of that happening. So I'm really glad I reread this before continuing on, because I definitely think I'll be able to do The Righteous, the sequel, do it justice, is that what I'm trying to say? Yeah, do it justice and fully appreciate it, because there's so many scenes I'm like, I have no memory of this happening at all. So parts of it did feel like reading it for the very first time, which was fun, I should say. The other thing I wanted to say about this book is the kind of shining star of this book is the humour. It is absolutely hilarious book. Vedran Chell is such an enjoyable main character. I like him and I like watching his growth over this book, and I think he is a main character that I like his morals and how he lives his life. So yeah, he's a very likable main character. Yeah, and the humor is incredible, and this book has some of the best insults you'll ever hear in your life. So creative, so funny. They all spend the book just absolutely shit talking each other, and it's absolutely hilarious. It kind of also has like found family elements with the Black Hawk Company, which is just also really cute. And then at the start of this book is this kind of political religious aspect that is introduced and not at all really mentioned right until the end of this book, where it really kicks off. So although it's a slower pace, I enjoy just spending time with the main character and watching him grow. And then the ending, it just does this like, I can't click, this like switch back to the political aspect that you're like, oh shit, I forgot about that. And it's just a really fun, intriguing ending to the book. And there's this whole huge political kind of, I don't know how to say this, intrigue, and there's this religious sect that's kind of up to no good, and a lot of people that have infiltrated and are using this religion for bad, which is very typical. So that is such a fun cliffhangery ending, and I'm very much looking forward to the sequel, where we'll really get to see that political side of this book really come into focus. So I had the best time rereading this. I then reread Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. This is book 2 in the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. As I've said before, I am rereading the series so I can finally continue on with the rest of the, what's it called? Rick Riordan verse. Basically, if you don't know, Percy Jackson is a demigod. He is half human, half god. He is the son of Poseidon, god of the sea. And this is a book, oh, I can't really say without spoilers, but if you've seen the Odyssey, this is the Odyssey, basically. And I was literally just watched the Odyssey today, and thank God I read this book, because this book helped me fully understand this movie. I think I would have been lost if I hadn't have read Percy Jackson. I'm like, oh, that's Circe. Oh, that's the Cyclops. So it really helped me understand the Odyssey. But yeah, I had a fun time rereading this series. You can't go wrong with Percy Jackson. I think they are fantastic books. And I am so glad after like 2 months that I finally picked this up, and hopefully in July I will be able to continue on with book 3, The Titan's Curse. So that is everything I read and reread in the month of July. Let me know in the comments below, have you read anything I talked about? What were your thoughts on the book? Do you think I fairly rated my books this month? I spent a lot of time questioning my ratings this month. Also, let me know in the comments, what was your favourite read in the month of July? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Give it a like if you did, and subscribe if you would like to see more of my content, and I will see you in whatever the hell I post next. Bye!